Chapter 20. Are You Keeping Something from Me? Part 1. Scene 1. Fumbling for her ringing device, Sophie's eyes were still sticky with sleep. She glanced at the screen and saw Director Fox's name. She started scratching away at her eyes. Accepting the call, her voice was rough. Hello? Sophie, we have an urgent assignment. I need you and Ryan at HQ ASAP. The way he said it didn't leave any space for pushing back. Understood. We'll be there soon. She ended the call and rolled over, reaching for her wife, but her hand met only cold sheets. Frowning, she sat up, scanning the room for any sign of Ryan. The other side of the bed was empty, the covers thrown back carelessly. Her brain was in overdrive while she untangled herself from the sheets and planted her feet on the bedroom floor. After their performance review, they were already on thin ice with Luke and the agency and couldn't afford another error. She needed to find Ryan and get to Black Bat headquarters before they messed this up even further. She searched the house, calling out for her, but silence was her only answer. The living room, kitchen, and bathroom were all empty. She made her way to the garage, hoping to find Ryan tinkering with one of her gadgets, but flipping on the light, the space was vacant, and her wife's Jeep was conspicuously absent. Pulling out her phone, Sophie dialed Ryan's number, tapping her foot impatiently as it rang. Voicemail. She tried again, and again. With every ring that went unanswered, she felt her patience become worn. She started firing away multiple texts, a mix of questions and demands about Ryan's whereabouts. Where are you? Called. Urgent. We need to go now? Answer your damn phone. Seconds became minutes with zero replies. Sophie stormed around the garage, lips pressed into a hard line. Ryan was ignoring her. She knew it deep down. Realizing it stung, a bitter pill to swallow about how strained things had become. Fine, whatever, he grumbled, feeling angry and hurt. I'm too grown for these childish games. She went back inside, set on getting ready and heading to Black Bat alone. If her wife couldn't be bothered to answer her calls or show up when it mattered most, then Sophie would handle whatever was going on her own. She'd be damned if she let Ryan's careless manner risk their already unstable standing with the agency. Dressing quickly, her movements sharp and efficient, Sophie holstered her gun, grabbed her keys, and headed for the door, a determined set to her shoulders. As she slid behind the wheel of her car, she cast one last glance at her silent phone, a flicker of worry and longing beneath the anger. But there was no time for sentiment now. She had a job to do, with or without her wife by her side. Scene 2. Gotham City, Black Bat headquarters. Sophie's car skidded into the Black Bat lot, tires squealing as she hit the brakes hard. She snatched her phone, hauling ass towards Luke's office, hands shaking as she redialed Ryan's number, but still nothing. She was close to losing her shit. Ryan, for real, answer your phone, she snapped. We have a damn job, so get yourself to Black Bat right now. I'm not playing games. If you're intentionally ghosting me, I swear. The sound of a door opening caught Sophie's attention, and she looked up to see Luke standing in the doorway of his office, on as he took in her angry expression. Sophie quickly ended the call and shoved her phone into her pocket, trying to compose herself as she approached her boss. Agent, where's your partner? Sophie tried to come up with an excuse for Ryan's absence. She's on her way. Had to take care of something real quick. But she could tell he wasn't buying it. Is that so? We have a critical assignment that requires both of you, and I don't have time to waste. She could feel his judgment weighing her down. Having to admit Ryan had gone AWOL made her cringe inside, even though it was out of her control. I'm sorry, sir. I don't know where she is. I've been trying to reach her, but she's not answering her phone. Luke sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Agent, we just recently had a conversation about expectations, and I expected to see you and your partner here, together, not separate. Sophie felt like a child being scolded by a disappointed parent. She hated the feeling, and her anger towards Ryan grew with each second. How could she leave her to face Luke's displeasure alone? How could she be so irresponsible when their entire future with the agency was at stake? It won't happen again, sir. I'll find Ryan, and we'll be ready. Though Luke was many inches shorter than her, Sophie still felt small under his stare. Meet me in the briefing room in 5 minutes, Agent. He turned on his heel and went back into his office, leaving her alone in the hallway. Her nails dug into her palms as she fought the urge to scream. Ryan had better have a damn good explanation for this, or Sophie swore she would make her regret ever ignoring her calls. Not too long afterward, Sophie sat in the conference room, her eyes glued to her phone as she made one last futile attempt to reach Ryan. The sound of someone clearing their throat snapped her attention back to the present. She looked up to see Luke standing in the doorway, his arms full of files and his laptop. He dumped the files on the table with a thud. She quickly put her phone away and straightened her posture as he turned on the large monitor. The image of a black woman's face was on the screen, and her name and age were displayed beneath. Name, Jada Jett. D.O.B., May 12th, 1967. Ethnicity, African American. Location, current whereabouts unknown. Jada Jett, Luke began. A phantom in the intelligence community, a master of the dark arts of espionage. She's a high-value asset with intel that could reshape the geopolitical landscape. We've been chasing her trail for years, but she's always been one step ahead. Until now. She's broken her radio silence and sent us a coded transmission. But it's a riddle wrapped in a conundrum. Our best cryptanalyst is trying to crack it as we speak, but we need to find her as well. That's where you and Ryan come in. Your mission is to find her alive and bring her back here. Whatever it takes. Understood, sir. Any leads on her whereabouts? Every scrap of intel we've gathered on Jet is in here. Stacy pulled it all together for us. Luke pushed one of the large case files across the table towards her. Memorize it, internalize it, let it guide your every move. Because this op, it's not just a mission, it's the mission. Failure is not an option. Sophie reached for the file to open it, but Luke's hand stopped her. Not yet. Take a look in the study alone. She pulled back her hand, confused as Luke's next statement left her feeling even more lost. I really hoped Ryan would have been here. There's information in there that she may find useful. What could be in the file that would be particularly relevant to Ryan? She wanted to ask, but something in Luke's face told her not to push it. Yes, sir, she said instead, rising from her seat. I'll make sure to review the file thoroughly. Sophie stepped out of the conference room with the heavy files in her hands. She felt that there was more to this assignment than met the eye, and Luke's obscure comment about Ryan only made it worse. She made her way to the Blackback Cafe, hoping a strong cup of coffee would help clear her head. Hey, Soph! She turned to see Ocean waving at her from a nearby table. Early morning cold case? Though she wasn't feeling it, Sophie threw Ocean a polite smile and headed in his direction. Something like that. He looked concerned when he noticed how stressed out Sophie seemed. You look like you could use a break. Want to grab a beer later and shoot the breeze? Sophie shook her head. The thought of relaxing felt next to impossible. Thanks, but I have a lot of research to do, and plus I need to find Ryan. She's been missing all day. MIA? Like missing in action? Soph, that's serious. You think she's okay? Sophie waved off his concern, though a shade of doubt nagged at the back of her mind. Nah, it's not like that. She's ignoring me on purpose. being the brat that she is. She went for a casual tone, but the statement rang empty, and she knew it. He studied her, unconvinced. "You don't seem so sure. Maybe we should—" "It's fine," Sophie cut him off, her voice louder than intended. She softened, forcing a small smile. "Seriously, I appreciate the concern, but I know Ryan. She's just being Ryan, blowing me off because she's pissed or something." But deep down, she felt like something wasn't quite right, despite her nonchalant front. What if there was more to it? What if Ryan really was in trouble? She pushed the thought aside, clinging to the anger that felt safer, more familiar. No, Ryan was just being a spoiled child, and Sophie was hating every second of it. She just hasn't been picking up her phone. I've been trying to reach her, but she's not answering. That's weird. Don't you two usually share your location with each other? We do, but Ryan got a new phone recently, and we forgot to update it. I have no idea where she is. Okay, come on now, Agent, Ocean chided. Considering our line of work, you know it's important to stay connected. That should have been the first thing you guys did. I know. Unbeknownst to Ocean, Ryan had gotten her new phone in the midst of an argument with Sophie, who after that stormed out. Updating their location sharing was the furthest thing from either of their minds at that heated moment. Well, maybe she just got caught up in something? Yeah. He stood up, gathering his things. Listen, if you don't hear from her soon, shoot me a text. We are in the standing in the building of high tech. We can find her. Thanks, Ocean. I appreciate it, but I don't think I have to take those measures. If you say so, I'm here if you need anything. He gave her shoulder a supportive tap before he took off, leaving her in her thoughts. She left the cafe room fuming. Ocean's pity for her wife's whereabouts really got under her skin, and Luke's comments were constantly replaying in her brain. Ryan was supposed to be there, having her back. The betrayal cut deep. But beneath all of that, there was something else. What secrets had she been keeping from Sophie? And for how long? Everything that Ryan had been doing in secret, her sudden desire to be on her own, and now, today, of all days, she was missing. It all painted a picture of a partner who was pulling away from her. She couldn't get over the fact that her wife was hiding something, and the thought made Sophie see red. What if she was the one getting played? What if Ryan was purposely trying to sabotage their partnership, their marriage by doing these things? Negative scenarios kept replaying in her head, and she was on the verge of crashing out. So she did what she was good at. Take control as best as she could. Sophie stood outside of Luke's office with her fist up, hesitating before knocking. She had never even considered this crazy idea until now, but it was stuck on repeat, tempting her with a way out of the suspicions and insecurities eating her up. She froze for a second, her heart pounding hard, realizing what she was about to do could flip everything upside down. She knew that once she knocked on that door, there would be no going back. She would be admitting to herself and to the world that her relationship with Ryan was broken. With a deep breath, she finally knocked. "Back so soon?" Luke quipped. "Don't tell me you've already finished reading those files." "No, sir." Sophie forced a laugh. "I actually had a question for you, if you have a moment." "Of course. What's on your mind, Agent Wilder?" That name felt like a slap across her face. Wilder. Ryan's last name. The one the agency had assigned to her when the they'd been arranged together. It felt like a sick joke now, a reminder of the partnership that seemed to be deteriorating before her eyes. "I was wondering," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "about the process of requesting a new partner. Just in case anything were to happen, I want to be prepared. Luke looked rattled, eyebrows raised so high they were practically touching his hairline. Whatever he thought was coming, it clearly wasn't that. A new partner. Is there something I should know about, Agent? She shook her head quickly, backpedaling. No, sir. I just want to be informed, that's all. You know, in case of an emergency. Was she really ready to give up on their partnership? On their marriage? The thought of walking away from Ryan, from the life they had built together, made every part of her body ache with a pain she had never known before. But what choice did she have? If Ryan couldn't be honest with her, if she couldn't trust her own wife, then maybe it was time to consider other options, or at least know her options. But the alternative? Staying in a marriage where she couldn't trust her own wife, where she was constantly questioning Ryan's loyalty and commitment, felt like a fate worse than death. Sophie knew that she deserved better, that she deserved a partner who would stand by her side no matter what, who would never leave her to face the darkness alone. Luke's eyes were all over her, trying to read between the lines of what she was saying. He'd always been a big believer in their relationship, in and out of the field. He has always been proud of his selection of the two women, and though they often got on his nerves, they were some of the best operatives. That's why he had hoped, after their last review, they'll finally get their head out of their asses. He was rooting for them, and he knew they needed each other, especially after Sophie started reading that file in her hands. But he wasn't showing his hand. If she wanted to know the process, it was his duty to tell her. Well, the procedure is fairly straightforward, but before he could continue, his phone rang. He held up a finger, signaling for Sophie to wait as he answered. Director Fox? A pause. On my way. He hung up, turning back to Sophie with an apologetic shrug. Duty calls, Agent. But first, I want you to dig into those files and see what you can find on Jada Jet. We'll follow up on your current request shortly. She felt a little awkward, thinking her question may have come across the wrong way. Sorry, no. It's not a request, sir. I just want to be thorough, to know what my options are. It's just an inquiry, a hypothetical, not a request. I see, he said. Let me know what you find in those files, okay? With that, he walked her out of his office and down the hall. As she departed, she felt self-conscious. What did Luke think of her question? Does he think Sophie is weak to even have the audacity to ask? Or does he think she's making the best choice? Would she and Ryan ever recover from this? She stepped into the small research room and spread the files out across the table. She began to uncover the mysterious story of Jada Jet. Jada had been a highly skilled and respected operative, rising through the ranks of False Face, a covert organization that had once been a marker of international espionage. Her career was marked by numerous successful assignments, earning her a reputation as one of the agency's most valuable assets. False Face, in its early days, had been an upstanding spy agency focused on international and domestic affairs, with its HQ in Gotham. However, things took a turn when the organization was bought out by multi-billionaire Roman Sionis. Under his leadership, Falseface began to adopt a more ominous approach to its operations, blurring the lines between what was right and wrong. Sophie discovered that Jada had begun to notice suspicious activities within Falseface after returning from leave following the birth of her firstborn. The child's name was redacted from the records, provoking Sophie's curiosity. Jada had quietly investigated these activities, but her efforts ceded no concrete evidence. The turning point for Jada came after a mission in El Salvador. The details were scarce, but it was clear that something had gone terribly wrong. In its aftermath, Jada went AWOL, disappearing without a trace. Falseface launched a manhunt, determined to track her down. During her absence, rumors surfaced of Jada's alleged infidelity with a fellow Falseface agent, despite her marriage. The reports hinted at complex personal and professional affairs. As Sophie pieced together the timeline, she made an appalling discovery. Sometime during this period, Jada had become pregnant again. Sophie flipped through the hospital records, her eyes scanning the pages for any clue that might shed light on Jada's second child. Suddenly, a particular entry caught her attention. May 30th, 1992. St. Jude's Hospital. A baby girl. She knew that date like the back of her hand. Hell, she celebrated that date not too long ago. She quickly pulled up Ryan's file on her laptop and cross-referenced the details. The hospital where the baby girl was abandoned was the same hospital where Ryan was born. It couldn't be a coincidence, could it? With the scattered files everywhere, she came upon a brief description of the abandoned baby, mentioning a distinct birthmark on her right toe. Sophie stopped breathing. She had traced that very same mark on Ryan's foot countless times, a tiny imperfection that she found adorable. She shuffled the papers, laying them out side by side on the table. The evidence was staring her in the face. Could Ryan be Jada Jet's abandoned child? The files painted a picture of a woman torn between her duties and her morals, ultimately leaving behind her husband and first child when she fled False Face for good. Jada had become a ghost, her whereabouts anonymous for decades. Sophie now understood why Black Bat had suddenly been interested in finding Jada. After years of silence, and ultimately thinking she may have been dead, an encoded message had been intercepted by Black Bat's intelligence network. The communication bore all the hallmarks of Jada's unique encryption style, leading Black Bat to believe that she was attempting to reach out from hiding. What did Jada know that she was reaching out now? Why did Jada leave in the first place? As Sophie read through the official Black Bat reports written specifically for her and Ryan, she realized that the information linking Ryan to Jada Jet was also a recent discovery for Black Bat. The organization had long been aware of the similarities between the two women's skills and backgrounds, but concrete evidence of their connection had been elusive. It was only through a series of recent breakthroughs that Black Bat's intelligence team had managed to uncover the truth. Advances in DNA analysis technology, combined with the recovery of previously lost or damaged records from False Face's archives, had finally provided the missing pieces. She read that Black Bat's leadership, including Director Fox, had carefully considered their approach to revealing this information to Ryan. The decision to assign the Wilders to the Jada Jet case was not a manipulative move, but rather a way to gradually introduce Ryan to the truth about her origins. Sophie sank into her seat, distraught. Laying it all out for Ryan, her roots, her backstory, felt like a danger zone. She had to tread carefully. Her first instinct was to go to her wife and wrap her in her arms. But as she reached for her phone, she hesitated. Dropping this bombshell on Ryan now, when things were already so flimsy between them, didn't seem like the best option. She glanced at her phone, noting the calls and unanswered texts she had sent to Ryan throughout the day. It had been hours, and still there had been no word, which left Sophie conflicted. "I can't even get in contact with her," she muttered to herself. "And what the hell am I supposed to say anyway? Oh, hey Ryan, I think I found out who your birth mother is. Why don't you call me back?" She shook her head. The absurdity. If Ryan couldn't even answer calls or texts, did she deserve to know this from her? Or should she just hand over the files and tell her to figure it out herself? The thought was harsh, and Sophie hated herself for even considering it. But what was she supposed to do? This damn woman was driving her crazy. Part of her was ready to pull Ryan into the tightest hug ever after finding this out. But another part wanted to straight up cuss her ass out